And hello, Capricorn. Take a breath with me for a moment. Pause, because something in your energy tonight feels different, something softer, yet undeniable. You may have tried to move forward. They may have tried to convince themselves they could forget you. But the universe has a way of pulling souls back to what is real, what is honest, what the heart never released. Pause, Capricorn. There is someone in your story who thought they could walk away from this connection, but their heart keeps circling back to you like a compass that refuses to point anywhere else. And before we go deeper, I want you to anchor your energy here with me. Type, "I am ready to receive" in the comments, and let the universe know you're open to the guidance meant for you tonight. Because what I'm about to reveal may explain everything you've been feeling, and it leads us into a truth much bigger than you realize. Capricorn, let me sit with you for a moment, just you and me here. No noise, no pressure, only the truth that rises when everything else quiets down. There is something about the way you move through this life, something steady, something brave in a way you rarely give yourself credit for. And the person tied to your energy feels it too, even if they never learned how to say it out loud. They have watched you stand through storms that would have broken other people, watched you hold your ground when the world shifted under your feet, watched you make decisions from a place of wisdom, not impulse. And there is a quiet power in you that unsettles them. Not because it is loud, but because it is real. You carry yourself with this calm strength that makes people wonder what you have lived through, what shaped you, what softened you, what hardened you, and why, even after all of it, you still lead with integrity. They look at you and see someone who does not chase, someone who does not beg, someone who knows their worth in a world that forgets to recognize value unless it is wrapped in noise. And that is exactly what pulls them in. Not the things you try to show, but the things you don't. You have become a mirror to them, a reflection that reveals who they are when the masks fall. And that is why they cannot let go. Not really, not fully. There is a part of their soul that leans toward you the way a tired person leans toward a quiet room, as if your presence gives them permission to breathe again, as if something in you speaks a language their heart has been trying to remember. And maybe you have noticed it too. The way they study you even in silence, the way they hover at the edge of your orbit, afraid to step forward, afraid to step away. They have met plenty of people before you, people who entertained them, people who distracted them, people who filled the space for a season. But you made them feel seen, not exposed, seen. There is a difference, a deep one. And now they are caught between admiration and fear. Admiration because your strength calls something higher out of them. Fear because loving someone like you means they cannot stay the same. So they keep searching for the words, the courage, the moment. They replay the way you look at them, the way your calm unsettles their chaos, and they realize they are not ready to lose that, not ready to lose you. And as this truth rises in them, something begins to shift, Capricorn. Slowly, quietly. Like a door they once closed, finding itself unlocked by a feeling they never meant to keep. And from here, the story starts to turn in a way neither of you expected, because the heart that tried to walk away is already finding its way back to you. Capricorn, sometimes the heart tries to pretend it is stronger than it really is. It tells itself stories. It builds a little distance. It convinces itself that stepping away is the mature thing to do. And for a while, they really thought they could do that with you. They told themselves you were too deep, too steady, too certain in a way that made them confront everything they had avoided in their own life. They felt your strength and mistook it for a spotlight shining on their unspoken fears. So they whispered excuses into their own mind. Not enough, not ready, not capable of meeting someone like you where it actually matters. And maybe you sensed it. That moment when they slipped into silence, when the energy shifted, when their presence loosened like a hand letting go too soon. But what they did not expect was how your absence would begin to echo. They tried to walk forward, tried to focus on the familiar, tried to drown the longing in noise and routine. But every step away from you felt like walking upstream against something they could not see, yet could not overpower, because you left a quiet imprint on them. A stillness, a calm that did not demand anything, yet somehow invited them to feel safe in a way they had not felt in years. That realization came slowly, in the small hours of the night, in the moments no one else witnessed, in the tiny cracks where the truth slips in because there is nowhere left for it to hide. They would sit alone and think, if you really were too much, then why did being away from you feel like a room without air? Why did the world seem louder when your voice was no longer in it? Why did every distraction lose its color the moment they tried to replace what you made them feel? And then the fear turned into something else, something quieter, something honest. The awareness that you were not overwhelming at all, you were grounding. You were familiar in a way the soul recognizes before the mind agrees to understand. So, the harder they tried to forget you, the clearer your presence became. Not in memory, but in the way you softened their edges, in the way you changed the direction of their thoughts without saying a word. There is a kind of gravity that forms between two people who meet it, the right emotional temperature, not hot, not cold, just warm enough for truth to rise. And that gravity has been pulling them back toward you, even when pride told them to resist. And maybe that is why they keep circling your energy as if you were the one steady point in a world that shifts too quickly. Maybe that is why every attempt to move on leads them right back to the place where their heart feels the least threatened and the most understood. And Capricorn. As that truth settles deeper in them, something inside begins to open, as if they are finally willing to see what their fear once blurred. It is from that opening that the next truth emerges, quietly, almost shyly, yet impossible to ignore. Capricorn, there is something I wish you could see from where I am sitting, the way your energy moves in someone's life, the way your presence rearranges the room without ever raising your voice. You do not push, yet people feel guided. You do not demand, yet people step into a version of themselves they did not know they could reach. And this person, the one who keeps orbiting your memory, they felt that shift the moment they crossed paths with you. It was subtle at first, a quiet awareness, a soft pull toward becoming better, not for you, but because being around you reminded them that growth is not something to fear when the right soul is watching. You stirred something in them the way a steady flame stirs a cold room, not by burning bright, but by offering warmth they did not realize they had missed. You gave them space to breathe in a world that often suffocates. You listened in a way that made their thoughts settle. You spoke in a way that made their defenses loosen. And without meaning to, you became a place where they could rest their spirit for the first time in a very long time. It is strange how influence works. You did not set out to change anyone, yet somehow you became the reason they questioned their impulsiveness, the reason they paused before reacting, the reason they wondered what it would feel like to finally offer something real instead of running from it. You showed them patience without speaking the word. You showed them trust without asking for anything. You showed them what steady love looks like even when you were not trying to prove a thing. And maybe they did not understand it in the beginning. People who have lived through chaos often mistake stability for danger. They confuse calm with boredom. They equate depth with risk, until they meet someone who carries depth like a gentle river instead of a storm. That was you. You became the quiet place where their restless heart recognized itself. You became the reminder that not all connections are meant to challenge. Some are meant to guide. Some are meant to heal. Some are meant to soften the parts of us that hardened too early. And even now, when they think back on you, there is a stillness that rises in them, a clarity, a feeling that maybe life could be lived with more intention than they once believed. You touch their trajectory in a way they cannot undo. And Capricorn, that realization does something to a person. It awakens a longing not just for you, but for the version of themselves they were becoming when you were near. A version they lost sight of when fear pulled them in another direction. But something has been calling them back. Not to repeat what was, but to face what they ran from, because a truth long avoided has begun to form its own voice in the quiet space where your memory still lives. Capricorn, there is something almost fragile about the way their feelings grew for you. Not fragile because it was weak, but fragile because it was real in a world where real things are rare and easily shaken. At first they thought they could handle it, thought they could keep the connection in a neat little box, someplace safe, someplace they could open and close on their own terms. But feelings like these do not stay contained, not when they come from a place the mind cannot fully explain, not when the heart recognizes something before the rest of them is ready to understand it. And that is when the panic began, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that settles behind the ribs, when someone realizes they are standing in front of a love that asks for honesty instead of performance. a love that sees beneath the surface without trying to expose anything, a love that makes them want to be better, yet terrifies them because they do not know if they can live up to it. You touch places in them they had carefully kept out of reach, the places where old fears hide, the places where doubt whispers, the places that learned long ago that closeness can feel like danger when you have been let down enough times. They were afraid of losing you before they even fully had you, afraid that you would look too closely and discover the parts of them they tried to hide from everyone else, and maybe even from themselves, afraid of being seen in the exact way their heart longed for, but never felt ready to receive. So they did what scared people often do. They inched forward just far enough to feel you, then pulled back just far enough to feel safe, warm one moment, distant the next, caught in that space between desire and defense. But here is the truth they could not escape. Even in their confusion, even in the back and forth, their heart kept tilting toward you like a compass, searching for the right direction. Something in them softened when they thought of you. Something settled. Something felt known. It was not your words. It was not your actions. It was the way their spirit reacted in your presence, as if some deeper part of them had already chosen you long before their mind caught up. And that realization, it shook them. It made every wall they built feel unstable. It made every excuse sound thin. It made every attempt to stay detached feel impossible, because no matter how tangled their emotions became, no matter how desperately they tried to regain control, the truth kept rising with a quiet insistence that grew harder to ignore. A truth that has been guiding them back toward the very thing they tried to outrun. And, Capricorn, that truth is beginning to surface in ways they can no longer deny, pulling them toward a moment where hiding is no longer an option and honesty becomes the only doorway left. Capricorn. There is something sacred about the space that forms when two souls pull back from each other. It feels cold at first, quiet in a way that almost hurts. But silence has a way of telling the truth no conversation was brave enough to hold. And in that space between you and them, something began to shift. Not loudly, not all at once, but like a slow turning inside their chest, as if life finally handed them a mirror they could not look away from. They started seeing themselves the way they imagined you saw them, the sharp edges, the hesitation, the moments they chose fear even when their heart leaned toward you. And it stung them in places they had kept numb for years. Sometimes distance teaches more than closeness ever could. They began to understand how their silence might have landed on your heart, how their back and forth may have felt like a promise half-spoken and never kept. And it weighed on them in a way they did not expect. There were nights when they sat with thoughts they usually outran, nights when the room felt small because your absence echoed too loudly. Nights when they realized they had not just stepped away from you. They had stepped away from the version of themselves that felt gentler when you were near, and something about that truth unscrewed the lids on old fears, the beliefs that told them they were not enough, the stories that said love must be earned through suffering or sacrifice, the idea that closeness was dangerous because it made them visible in ways they did not know how to hold. But silence can be a healer if a person lets it. And somewhere in that quiet, they began to ask themselves the questions they once avoided. Why did losing you hurt in a way nothing else seemed to touch? Why did every distraction fade so quickly? Why did the thought of you feel more grounding than the life they built to keep from feeling anything at all? The answer rose slowly like light leaking through a closed curtain. It was not that you demanded too much. It was that they offered too little, not because they did not care, but because they did not yet know how to show up as the person their heart was trying to become. And that awareness changed something in them, a realization that if they did not grow, if they did not face the shadows they once avoided, they risked losing the connection that made them feel more human than anything else had in a long time. So they let the silence do its work, let it peel back the layers, let it soften the parts of them that had gone rigid with fear, let it teach them what they could not, hear when life was too loud. And Capricorn, as they sat with that truth, another understanding began to rise quietly beneath it, pulling them toward a place they never expected to revisit, yet cannot help but return to. Capricorn, there is something almost haunting about the way they watch you from a distance. Not in a troubling way, but in that quiet, restless way a person carries when they know they walked away from something their soul was never prepared to lose. They pretend they are fine. They pretend they moved on, They pretend the silence sits easy on their chest. But you and I both know their calm is a thin layer laid over a heart that has not settled once since the day your energy slipped out of reach. It is strange, isn't it? How someone can hide their feelings, yet reveal everything in the way they linger around your world. They keep showing up in the shadows where your light still touches them, checking your name, your posts, the rhythm of your life, as if by watching you breathe, they can steady their own heart again. And they do not even realize how obvious it is to the universe watching them. Every time you go quiet, they feel that quiet inside their own body. Every time you pull your energy back, their chest tightens as if air is suddenly harder to hold. Every time they imagine you moving forward without them, their thoughts spiral in ways they never let anyone see. Because your silence, Capricorn, is not just silence to them. It is a question, a fear, a reminder, a mirror, a window into everything they are terrified to lose. It is the kind of discomfort that makes a person pace the room long after midnight, wondering who you talk to now, wondering if someone else gets to feel the softness in you they once took for granted, wondering if they waited too long to become the person you deserved. And yet, they tell no one. They hold it in their chest as if speaking it aloud would make the truth too real to manage. So they keep watching from afar, hoping for signs of you, hoping your light will turn toward them again even for a moment. But, Capricorn, here is the part they would never admit. They are not watching simply because they miss you. They are watching because something in them is still connected to you in a way they cannot sever, no matter how hard they try. Some bonds do not break. They bend, they strain, they stretch across time and distance, but they do not break. And when they check on you, when they hover just outside your orbit, it is not a lack of strength. It is recognition. A quiet admission that the connection they felt with you never loosened its grip on their heart. They feel you more in your absence than they ever understood in your presence. And that realization has been pulling at them with a force they can no longer ignore. Because something inside them has begun to rise through the hesitation, nudging them toward a truth they have avoided long enough. A truth waiting to meet them the moment they finally stop running and listen to what their own heart has been trying to say. Capricorn. There comes a moment in every story when the truth a person has been running from finally catches up to them, not with noise, not with drama, but with the quiet weight of something too honest to ignore. For them, that moment arrived in the most unexpected way. Maybe it was a memory of your laugh that softened their chest. Maybe it was the way your name still steadied their breath. Maybe it was the sudden realization that peace is not found in the absence of feeling, but in the right presence. Whatever it was, it pulled them into a clarity they had been avoiding. They tried to walk away, Capricorn, tried to convince themselves that logic was stronger than longing, tried to believe that time would wash away the imprint you left on them. But the heart has its own intelligence, its own gravity, its own stubborn devotion to what is true. And when they finally listened past the noise of their fears, past the excuses they repeated to feel in control, they heard something simple and startling and beautifully undeniable. They realized you were not the person they feared losing. You were the person they were built to meet. You became the one steady presence in a world where everything shifts too quickly. The one voice that softened the chaos inside them. The one connection that did not demand they perform, but invited them to arrive as themselves. And that recognition humbled them, made them look at you with a respect they did not know how to put into words, made them understand that trust is not something you declare, but something you feel in the presence of the right soul. With you, they felt a calm they could not manufacture, a relief they could not explain, a sense of belonging that reached deeper than convenience or attraction or timing. What unsettled them the most was not how much they cared for you, but how natural it felt to care. As if their heart had known you long before their mind learned your name. And somewhere in that realization, a truth rose like light, finding its way through a half-open door. They want to choose you, not out of nostalgia, not out of loneliness, but because nothing in their life has ever mirrored back their better self the way you did simply by existing. And the reason they keep circling back is not because you are familiar, it is because you are home, not a place, a feeling. The kind of feeling that makes a person stop running and start wondering what their life might look like if they finally allowed themselves to stand still in front of the one connection that never let go of them. And Capricorn, As this truth settles deeper into their bones, another realization is beginning to bloom quietly beneath it, guiding them toward a choice their heart has been waiting to make. Capricorn. There comes a point in the journey when a person stops running from what they feel and starts running toward it. Not because the fear disappears, but because the longing becomes stronger than the walls they once built to keep themselves safe. And that is where they are now. Somewhere between realization and readiness. Somewhere between regret and courage. Somewhere they never expected to be, yet cannot deny any longer. They have been sorting through their emotions like someone carefully unpacking a box they were afraid to open. Every truth they avoided is in there. Every hesitation. Every moment they pulled back when all they wanted was to move closer. They are finally sifting through it with hands that no longer shake as much as they used to. They are stabilizing their life in ways you might not see on the surface. Tying loose ends, letting go of what distracts them. Stepping out of old patterns they once thought were permanent, as if preparing a space inside themselves where your presence could actually fit. And they keep rehearsing the words they hope will reach you. Not grand speeches, not dramatic confessions, just honest language shaped from the parts of their heart that stayed loyal to you, even when pride got in the way. They imagine calling you, hearing your voice again, feeling that familiar calm settle in their chest. They imagine writing to you in a way that finally sounds like the truth instead of the armor they once spoke through. They imagine you listening not because you owe them anything, but because the connection between you never truly dissolved. And with every imagined moment, their courage grows a little steadier, a little clearer, a little more certain that coming toward you is not a mistake, but a correction. Because they know now what they did not know then. They know that you were never replaceable, never interchangeable, never just another chapter. You were the moment their heart softened after years of tightening itself to survive. You were the reminder that real connection is not supposed to feel like a battle, but like coming home after being lost too long. Nothing and no one has recreated what they felt with you, and they have stopped pretending that anyone could. So they are gathering themselves with a focus that surprises even them. Not rushing, not forcing, just preparing. Preparing in the way someone does when they want to approach you with the respect you deserve from the beginning. And Capricorn, as they come to terms with all the ways you change them without asking for anything in return, there is a quiet determination forming in their chest, a steady pulse, a direction, a choice, one that has been whispering to them with increasing clarity, calling them back toward the connection their heart never stopped holding on to. Capricorn, before we end tonight, I want you to hear this one truth as clearly as you hear your own heartbeat. You were never waiting for them. You were growing. And in that growth, you became the kind of person someone finally realizes they cannot afford to lose. What is coming toward you now is not the version of them who hesitated or ran or lived through fear. It is the version who finally understands why their heart kept circling back to you. Not because of fate alone, but because your energy was the one place their spirit could rest without apology. And here is the surprise, Capricorn. This story was never just about their return. It was about your rising, your clarity, your strength in the silence, your ability to love without losing yourself. You changed the direction of this connection simply by staying true to who you are. That is your power. That is your gift. So, if any part of tonight's message felt like it spoke directly into your chest, take a breath and let it land. Then type in the comments, "I trust what is meant for me." Let the universe hear you. Let this community of Capricorns hold that intention beside you. And as you do, remember this. Your story is not closing here. It is opening. The energy around you is shifting in ways you can feel but cannot fully name yet. Something new is preparing to meet you, and I have a feeling the next message is already on its way. If you want to walk this journey with me, go ahead and subscribe, stay close. Because Capricorn, your next chapter is closer than you think. Good night for now. We continue soon. The story isn't done with you yet.